Well, Senator Gillibrand says that she's running for president. The Democrat from New York made the announcement on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert last night. She did tell viewers that she launched an exploratory committee that night. Gillibrand joins a growing pool of 2020 Democratic hopefuls, which already includes several women who are either considering runs or actively campaigning. Gillibrand spoke earlier today alongside her family back in her hometown, Troy, New York, where she plans to host her campaign headquarters.
I'm going to run for president of the United States because as a young mom, I will fight for your children as hard as I would fight for my own. And that's why I believe that health care should be a right and not a privilege. I believe we should have better public schools because it shouldn't matter what block you grow up on. I believe we need to start rewarding work in this country again because anybody who wants to work hard should be able to get whatever training they need to earn their way into the middle class and to be able to have the American dream, which has always been for everyone.
For more, CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns joins me now on set. It seems, Caitlin, that Gillibrand has joined half of the Democratic Party, who has now announced that they're running in 2020.
We still have more to go.
We've got more to go, which is the beginning. What do you think sets her apart?
Well, it's interesting because she's not the first woman to join this field. Elizabeth Warren has already announced her exploratory committee, but she's not going to be the last. We're expecting other women to enter the fray, and that's really significant. Women are already setting records in this 2020 primary, and we're seeing her really play up the gender issue in this campaign already. And that's because she spent a lot of time in 2018 campaigning for women candidates across the country and specifically in purple or even red states. And she also has a super PAC called Off the Sidelines, which is dedicated to helping to recruit and fund and help women run and win office on a variety of different levels. So she's very much had this in her niche. Of course, we know she's played a big role in the Senate on the issues of sexual assault, led the charge to oust Senator Al Franken from the Senate, took some heat from that among some Democrats, but some women and other members of the party see that as a really encouraging way.
When it comes to issues, what do you think, Caitlin, will set her apart from the rest?
Well, certainly those issues. She's able to talk about her record in the Senate. We're going to have several senators running for office this time around. So I'm interested to see whether and how they use their record in Washington as either a calling card or either trying to separate themselves from it. We saw her take, a leading role on issues of sexual assault, particularly sexual assault in the military, which earned some criticism as well, but also she feels like that is a big item for her. She's talked about paid family leave, health care. She talked about that a lot in her appearance last night and also earlier today. And also she talked about being a mom of young children. And I think that is something that we'll see her talk about a lot.
We've seen her during her political time shift more towards the left. Julian Castro announced over the weekend he's running. We've seen him embrace tax policies backed by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Is that the sense in the Democratic Party? You've got to move more to the left?
Well, there's certainly energy within the party for a lot of the things that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talks about, particularly on economic policy. What's interesting about Gillibrand is that she got her start in politics representing a very conservative district, and she was able to flip that district to blue, but she had a lot of conservative views on things like immigration and guns that wouldn't really be tenable in today's Democratic Party, at least at this level. And so she has said that her transformation, her evolution, as she's called it, came when she started to represent New York State in the Senate. And she was talking to a wider group. She was talking to families in Brooklyn affected by gun violence, she has said, also in the issue of immigration. That kind of widened her perspective. And so she has talked a lot about that. She was asked about that today and said that her views have evolved here. And now she has very, views that could be described as pretty liberal.
When you talk about folks like Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders, who have been rumored but haven't officially thrown their hat in the ring, how would she fare against some of those guys who are well known, right?
Well, what's interesting about this field is that nobody has cleared it. We've talked a lot about, and we're wondering whether Joe Biden will actually get into this race. He certainly has all of the operation to do so, but even his presence or his likely presence or presumed presence isn't clearing the field in any way. In fact, many Democrats feel because Donald Trump is likely to be their opponent, he has announced that he is running for re-election, of course, that they feel like now is the time. Why not me? Why not now? A lot of people are entering the fray thinking that they have lots of opportunities in a field that doesn't have a front runner. And that's unique for Democrats. We really haven't seen that since the early 90s.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how that'll play out. It's such a wide field at this point. In previous remarks, she said that she won't take money from super PACs, from federal lobbyists. What changed? Because she clearly has. And do you think that'll come back to bite her?
Well, first, it's very interesting hearing this, of course, from a senator who represents New York. Wall Street is in New York. But it shows where the Democratic Party is right now. Remember, Elizabeth Warren, when she announced, has urged her Democratic colleagues not to take corporate PAC money, to allow campaigns to be funded by the people that they will represent. And so this has become a theme in the party, and it's going to put a little bit of a division. We're not going to see huge policy divisions this time around, but we are going to see some divisions within the party when it comes to outside influence, outside money. There's going to be a lot of pressure on people like Cory Booker, for example. So Gillibrand certainly staking out her claim on this issue that we'll hear a lot over the course of this campaign.
You know, you recently spent time in Iowa, which the way our system works, Iowa is hugely important when you're front loading on this. I'm curious what those voters told you that they want to see with Democratic candidates. What do they want?
Well, it's a very interesting question because we are very early on in the process, but Iowans don't think it's too early. A lot of people I talked to were very excited to get this process going. They were excited about, these are Democrats, excited about the opportunity to have a lot of candidates in this race. But the overarching theme I heard over and over and over again was that they wanted someone who could defeat Trump. So this idea of electability in terms of defeating Trump is a big issue, top of mind for a lot of voters. I talked to one woman who said, I didn't realize how painful it was to lose. So you've seen a lot more people get involved in politics after 2016, saw especially women candidates in 2018 doing more in politics, running and winning. But we don't know what that kind of candidate will look like. And even Democratic voters say they don't know exactly what kind of candidate can defeat Trump. Is it on policy? Is it on behavior? Is it about attitude? Is it about rhetoric? Those kinds of things we'll be looking for as we talk to voters across the cycle.
We know Ohio Democrat Senator Sherrod Brown has announced he's going to tour some states holding primaries, also suggesting he might throw his hat in the ring. I'm curious what you make of that announcement.
Well, he has expressed an interest. He said he's going to be kind of scoping it out and getting a feel for whether he would be well received. He said he didn't really think about this before, except that he won re-election in Ohio in 2018 in a state that Trump won overwhelmingly. And he won it at a time that lots of Democrats lost in 2018. So he feels like he has this calling card, especially in the Midwest, especially on issues related to the working class and on trade. He's had firm policies on that for a really long time. So he's going to be kind of scoping it out. It also speaks to, lots of diversity in this field. We've got lots of women, Julian Castro, as you mentioned, the Latino in the field. Sherrod Brown will be asked about diversity, but he feels like he can speak to working class voters better than anyone else.
When you talk to Democratic leaders, folks at the DNC, when they're looking at navigating this field, what do they say is important?
Well, it's very important for them to kind of be hands-off in this process. And it's going to be really interesting to see kind of how the field winnows, because there was such a reaction to kind of the Democratic Party interfering or being perceived as interfering in a presidential race. Voters very much want the committee to be hands-off, and they understand that. They want to have an open process. They're trying to figure out how these debates will work, but they've announced that they're going to have a lot of debates. They want them to be dynamic and diverse and not ranked in any way. So this hands-off approach is very interesting, and I've heard from progressive activists as well as more traditional party types who are pretty happy with the way things are going so far.
Everyone always says this election is so important, this election, every time we have elections, but it always feels that way, doesn't it, Caitlin? So much is at stake.
It does, and we're eyeing, how many candidates are actually going to be in, and I think that speaks a lot about where we are in this moment and where the Democratic Party, feels how it's going.
Look forward to it, and grateful you'll be there with us the whole way through.
Yes, excited about it. Thank you so
very much. Caitlin Huey-Burns.